Thank you for checking out this video. Today, we are going to discuss the fall of the Carolina Panthers. Last year, this team went on an amazing run led by MVP Cam Newton. They went 15-1 and ultimately lost in the Super Bowl. And so far this year, it's a completely different story. They have completely fallen off and they are last in their division. What happened to this team? Well, let's find out. To get a better idea of the change from year to year, let's first look at the roster updates from 2015 to 2016. Ironically enough, their offensive personnel have gotten better because they are returning the exact same starters as last season with the addition of number 1 wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin, who sat out all last year due to injury. Their defense, however, has had quite a bit of change. Charles Tillman and defensive end Jared Allen both retired.
Right off into the sunset, but seeing how there's no sunset, I'm just going to ride off.
Safety Roman Harper signed with the Saints, and Pro Bowl cornerback Josh Norman signed with the Redskins. They returned their core of solid linebackers, but had a complete makeover of defensive backs. Now that we have a better idea of the change in personnel, we can jump into what has happened this season. Here are the biggest reasons why the Panthers have fallen off this season. Number 1 is turnovers. A simple rule of football. Teams who have more takeaways than giveaways usually win more than they lose, and vice versa. The Panthers led the league in turnover differential last season by a wide margin, forcing nearly 40 turnovers, but so far this year, they have been polar opposites, coming up dead last with a -7 turnover differential. They simply cannot hold onto the ball. They have given the ball away the same amount of times as last season, and they have just barely played over half their games, and their defense isn't forcing anywhere near as many turnovers. The second point is the difference in Cam. Like I said before, this offense didn't lose any personnel. They even gained back Kelvin Benjamin, so how could they be worse? Well, here's the thing. Since 2013, the Panthers O-line has gotten better every single year, allowing less sacks and QB hits. But this year, the O-line seems to have regressed. With Michael Orr being hurt and their tackles overall playing very poorly, they are allowing the 8th most sacks in the entire league. Also, it doesn't help that Jonathan Stewart hasn't been healthy the whole season. He is an excellent blocker out of the backfield, and Cam taking a high volume of hits has definitely played a part in his drop-off in numbers. He is putting up almost identical numbers to his 2014 season, basically matching in QBR, passer rating, and touchdown to interception ratio. He went 5-8-1 in his 14 starts in 2014, so the drop-off in numbers correlating with their records makes sense. Another argument is that Cam's weapons aren't as effective this season. For example, Cam has yet to hit burner Ted Ginn Jr. over the top, which they did multiple times last season. Struggling to find guys open and constantly being hit has frustrated Cam. And with him being the leader of this offense, the emotion he displays can have a major impact on the players around him. And you can see the negativity in his body language, whether it's on the field or during press conferences.
Next question.
He is obviously frustrated and making it known. And whether he's justified or not, the attitude he displays can have an effect on the whole team. It can cause the offense to lose confidence when their leader is down and out. Last year he was hyped, dabbing every time he scored. You could see the joy he displayed while playing the game, and it had a positive impact on teammates around him. Having a highly emotional locker room can carry a team on some amazing runs, but the drawbacks is when things aren't going your way, the train can come off the tracks in a hurry. This leads to my next point. Number 3 is letting go of Josh Norman. So before discussing his impact, let's just look at the front 7. They still have their core, with Pro Bowlers K'Wan Short, Luke Kuechly, and Thomas Davis. They still have an elite rush defense. So here's where the Josh Norman effect takes place. Here are the basics of what he brings to the table. 1. A presence and a swagger to the secondary, much like Sherman in Seattle. His lockdown mindset creates an identity that the others in the secondary will adopt. And number 2, his ability to contain a number 1 wide receiver, which will benefit the others around him. Not having to double team number 1 receivers as often will allow the defense to expand their play calling and give guys opportunities elsewhere on the field. The best example of this happened against the Falcons. Did you see Julio Jones that game? He had 12 catches and around 300 yards, which is insane. Now Norman was asking for a massive contract in the offseason, and he is proving to be worthy of that money. Maybe not solely in his play in Washington, but the loss of identity when it comes to the Panthers secondary. They have completely fallen off in major passing categories due to their lack of experience from the defensive backs. Here are some differences in their defensive rankings. In 2015, the Panthers were the best in the NFL in interceptions. Now they're barely in the top 10. They gave up the 6th least amount of passing yards per game. Now they're 25th this season. And last year, they gave up the 6th least amount of points per game. And now they're 23rd this season. Their secondary is in shambles. They recently cut defensive back Benay Benwickery for surrendering 228 yards against the Falcons. Their only returning member of the secondary is Kurt Coleman, who was dropped off the season due to poor play and bad personnel around him. Pro Football Focus has their secondary ranked last in the NFL after week 7. So with the differential in turnovers, the difference in Cam, and letting go of Josh Norman have all played a big role in the difference between a 15-1 team and a team that's sub 500. They will be lucky to make the playoffs this season.